Trump apparently, there were these reports coming out that Trump was holding secret meetings with Hamas, and that he was doing this without consulting Israel. He was having these secret meetings, and people were up in arms saying they were feeling betrayed by Donald Trump. This was going on all over social media. How dare he? How dare he? How dare he? What is he talking to them about? Well, he's now since he's released a statement about this. And this is what the statement says. This is kind of shocking, but he says, Shalom Hamas means hello and goodbye. You can choose. Release all of the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all of the dead bodies of the people you murdered, or it's over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are sick and twisted. I am sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say. I've just met with your former hostages whose lives you have destroyed. This is your last warning. For the leadership, now is time to leave Gaza while you still have a chance. Also, to the people of Gaza, a beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold hostages. If you do, you are dead. Make a smart decision. Release the hostages now, or there will be hell to pay later. And Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. Did he just threaten the people of Palestine, the Palestinian people, the people of Gaza, with death if Hamas does not release the bodies of the hostages? That's exactly what he said in this. So was he in secret meetings with Hamas? Did Hamas not give him what he wanted? And he ended up putting out this message. Was he never in secret meetings with Hamas? And that was just a misreport from Axios. I mean, what is going on here? But okay, I kind of give up with the guy. Like, I don't know what to make of him and his negotiation tactics. They do seem to work to some degree, but in other cases, it's unclear if they work. Like with the tariffs, it's kind of still unclear on how that's going to pan out. So, right here in this message, he is certainly openly calling for a war crime, saying to the people of Gaza, you release, as if the people of Gaza have the bodies. Do I have any? I mean, how responsible am I, for example, with anybody being held right now in Guantanamo Bay? I mean, could you imagine a message coming from some other country saying to the people of America, release the people in Guantanamo Bay or you're dead? It's like, what kind of power do the people have? That's the problem in this whole narrative of blame all the Palestinian people. They're all responsible for this. They're at fault. It's all of them. No, it isn't. Just like it's not all of us Americans that are at fault for our country's war crimes. I don't have the keys to Guantanamo. I can't release anybody. There's nobody that what are children? Gaza is a city of kids. What are kids going to do about the hostages' bodies? And not only that, but you're giving up. He's asking Hamas to give clearly what the negotiation angle is Hamas has to leave Gaza. They're not allowed to be in power, and that's the end of it. But the problem is that Trump nor Israel has come up with a plan of who is to replace Hamas. They've said they also don't want the Palestinian Authority, which is the government that's in charge of the West Bank, because ultimately they don't want to join the two, and they would have stronger negotiation power against creating a Palestinian state. Against Israel for creating a Palestinian state. So they don't want the Palestinian Authority either. They haven't come up with a solution, an alternative. The only solution or alternative that Trump has presented is his big Gaza makeover and rebuild that he plans to do, which I'm starting to think was also a negotiation tactic. I'm starting to think with this latest Truth Social post that that was like a soft, clearly today they've really pissed him off. But previously he was like, here's your warning, like you either do what we want or I'm taking over and I'm going to build Trump Towers and we're going to have bearded women, half-naked bearded women dancing around, throwing money. I mean, these are just very bizarre negotiation tactics. And I just don't know if they're going to work against a people who've been resilient and fighting for their homeland for longer than Donald Trump has been alive. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but that's the latest with Trump and his supposed secret meetings with Hamas and whatnot. Okay, Dr. J. Bhattacharya, who's Trump's pick for head of NIH, started his Senate confirmation hearings. And this is one, I got a little clip from one of the questions that was asked and one of his answers. And, gotta love Dr. Jay Bhattacharya. He's been on the show several times. He has been one of the people really at the front and center of the COVID confusion and COVID craziness. He was one of the doctors, a Stanford doctor, just absolutely brilliant, but he got demonized during the COVID pandemic. He was part of the Twitter files release where they found out that he had been silenced and censored and the government pressured Twitter to do it. And so Dr. Jay Bhattacharya is Trump's pick to head up the NIH, which is not Anthony Fauci's old job. Anthony Fauci was in charge of NIAID, but NIH is above NIAID, I believe. And so Dr. Jay Bhattacharya will hopefully be getting that role. So he started his Senate confirmation hearings. This is one clip for you.
The proper role of scientists in a pandemic is to answer basic questions that policymakers have about what the right policy should be. Our role isn't to make decisions to say you shouldn't be saying goodbye to your grandfather as he's dying in a hospital. It shouldn't be to say you can't have a funeral because it's too dangerous. The scientists should say, here's what the risks are. And then you decide what the risk, whether you take it. The role of the scientist shouldn't be to say you can't send your kids to school for 2 years, that you can't you should close hospitals so that they can't treat heart attack patients. That you should not the role of scientists should be to address those problems by giving good data, and then let people make the science should be an engine for freedom. Knowledge and freedom, not something where it stands on top of society and says you must do this, this, and this, or else. It shouldn't be pushing mandates for vaccines that have been like the COVID vaccines that were tested for a relatively short period of time. I took the COVID vaccine myself, but I think that the mandates that many scientists push have led to the lack of confidence that so many of the public has in science. If science is a force for freedom and for knowledge, it will have universal support. That's what the role of science is.
Very smart guy. We're absolutely rooting for him, hoping that he gets through. This was the confirmation here. This was just he was testifying before the Senate Health Committee. They have to then vote on whether or not they want to pass him through to the full Senate. And then he would have to face the full Senate and the scrutiny of the full Senate. And then he would hopefully be placed where Trump has him nominated, head of NIH. There's no doubt that he is absolutely qualified for this job. So the Democrats, who are definitely going to be pushing back against him, they won't have a leg to stand on the way they tried against Robert F. Kennedy Jr., where they said, well, you're not a doctor. You've never worked in pharma. You've never worked in big pharma. What sort of qualifications do you have? But Dr. Jay Bhattacharya has all the qualifications in the world to be the head of NIH. And they're not going to be able to use that. They could try to use and say that he was some sort of a COVID, conspiracy theorist. But actually, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, out of all of the people that did pushbacks against mandates, that called question into, vaccines or various treatments, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, I would say, was the most measured. He was one that did believe certain groups should take the vaccine, older groups. He said, according to the data, there's no real evidence for anybody under 65, but over 65, there was some evidence that it would actually be beneficial. So he was very, I would say, he wasn't a radical in this at all. He really was truly somebody who followed the science during COVID, and people did not like it. What really made him notorious that Democrats are going to push back on, and we're probably going to hear a lot of when he gets to that full Senate confirmation hearing. He was one of the main authors of the Great Barrington Declaration, which was penned early on in the pandemic, and it was against lockdown. So this was before vaccines or any of that, but it was specifically saying these lockdowns are not going to work. And this isn't even science. Like, this is not what we've been taught. This isn't what we've been teaching. This is the actual manual for how we're supposed to be handling these pandemics. And you guys are doing the exact opposite. So we recommend we go back to the manual and we do what we're supposed to do, which was very similar to the way Sweden handled the COVID pandemic, which, by the way, Sweden has come out correct on that. And their epidemiologist, Anders Tegnell, said, we won't know how we do for 3 years. And that's, come back at me in 3 years. I mean, when he was making those decisions, the head epidemiologist, he got a lot of criticism, a lot of pushback. And he just said, look, 3 years, we'll find out. Well, it turned out 3 years later, Sweden was right. Sweden was right. But of course, 3 years passes. It doesn't make the news. A lot of people just remember Sweden being demonized, but they actually fared better than the rest of the European countries. And Dr. J. Bhattacharya and others who wrote that Great Barrington Declaration, they were just trying to follow that same science that Sweden's head epidemiologist, Anders Tegnell, was trying to follow. So smart guy, really, and a very nice guy, very nice person, really smart person. And I think a really truly somebody who's standing up for science. So we wish Dr. J. Bhattacharya the absolute best. And get through. We definitely want him to be the head of the NIH. Are you a yo-yo dieter? You diet, you lose weight, but you gain it all back plus a few extra pounds. Then later, you lose it and you regain it again and again. Well, that's dangerous. Studies show that can increase your risk of heart attack, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and other health problems. Breaking free of your yo-yo diet pattern is a main reason doctors created Lean. Lean is a supplement, it's not an injection, and you don't need a prescription. The science behind Lean is really impressive. Its natural ingredients target weight loss in 3 powerful ways: helps maintain healthy blood sugar, helps control appetite and cravings, and it helps burn fat by converting fat into energy. So listen, if you're tired of losing weight and gaining it all back, if you want to lose meaningful weight at a healthy pace, then Lean was created for you. And let me get you started with 20% off when you enter Kim20 at takelean.com. That's code Kim20 at takelean.com. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson Show. If you want to watch the full show, visit KimIversonShow.com. The show airs every Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Again, it's KimIversonShow.com. See you there.